and welcome to MiWeek. Happy Thanksgiving. I'm Christy McDonald. We are so glad that you're joining us tonight. Hope you've had a great holiday with your family and friends, and maybe you're hunkering down now with a leftover turkey sandwich and some pumpkin pie. That is good because we have a full show for you coming up. We'll hear from a CEO and an economic development expert on what Michigan needs to do to attract more businesses to the state. Plus an interview with Wayne State University President Embroy Wilson. Also, Governor Snyder defends and explains his plan for Detroit public schools. And then we'll take a look at Michigan's role in the upcoming presidential primaries. So a little politics talk with John Truscott. That is all coming up for you. But we do start tonight with bringing more business to Michigan. Recently, I moderated a panel at the Business Leaders for Michigan CEO Summit in Detroit. It was a frank conversation on how Michigan is doing, what more the state can do to attract businesses, and the importance of investment in economic development. And we have varying perspectives from Albert Berriz, the CEO of McKinley, based here in Michigan, and Barry Broome, who heads up economic development efforts in Sacramento, California.
Every single mayor that I work with in Florida, their economic development executive is next door to the mayor's office. They're the most important executive in the mayor's office. They're the ones they always have with them in every meeting. And in Florida, if you look at Governor Scott's organization, he's glad that other states are shutting down their economic development organizations. He's very happy to take all your business. He has world-class executives running that business, and Barry knows who they are. They're not good, they're terrific, and they're not here all the time because they're all the way around the world. If you look at the number of flights that fly in from the United Arab Emirates to the Orlando International Airport, you'll understand why Rick Scott's doing a good job with economic development.
Yeah, fools are shutting down their state agencies.
It's
fools.
completely.
They're fools.
So what do you think can be improved in Michigan to change our reputation then, Barry?
Well, I actually think, when you were talking about the awareness, I do love the Pure Michigan campaign, and I think the consistency behind that has been very helpful. I think Detroit is probably overperforming reputation-wise outside of the state, and Michigan is underperforming. I think Michigan should learn from Ohio's mistakes. I mean, under Bob Taft, Ohio restructured all their business policies. Ohio's done, probably 5, 6, 7 years ago, did many of the things that recently happened in Michigan, but it's never been converted into a selling and marketing strategy for that state. And I think getting the improved business climate has to be a real story. But again, if your state agency, MEDC, is getting cut by 25%, none of those achievements that you have are getting out into the marketplace because you don't have a team of people working on it.
Well, it all comes down to money. And if you're looking at the legislature, then how do you impress upon our state legislators that that's where we need to start spending the money? And how do you take that larger message to the state of Michigan and people who are saying, well, we seem to be doing okay for where we are right now. For Michigan, we're doing all right. How then do you you energize them to understand that maybe there needs to be more investment at that level?
Well, it's a return-driven exercise, right? So when people talk about tax credits, I always tell you, if your tax credit program is not costing you money, your tax credit programs, if they're written properly, and Michigan was very good at economic policy, is driving income to your state as well. And so if you're the tax credits, what happens is budgetary people measure these programs statically, not dynamically, and they don't understand how to communicate those fiscally. So you get this very conservative mindset on the budgetary side. It zeroes out everything as a cost item. There's no conversation about dynamic modeling on how many more jobs and investment occur because of the tax credit program. And so it gets treated as a fiscal note and a fiscal hit in the budget. But that is not the case. And there needs to be a conversation with the people advising the legislature on the budget that tax credits, R&D tax credits give huge returns to a state when you have them in place.
Albert, as a CEO, you're the one that gets to make decisions about where you want to locate your business and where you want to do business. So what attributes, I guess, would attract you to doing business in a certain state? And a lot of times we do talk about tax rates and regulations and business costs, but are there any kind of soft factors that would attract you to a state?
Yeah, it's a great question. For me, quite frankly, the soft factors are the final decision maker because the hard factors are always made for me because obviously we're not going to places that have negative growth. And so, I always look at it as what I call, and I talk about it in our office as the 3 C's. And for me, I'm a real estate investor, so I've got to follow my instincts. So my three C's are, am I comfortable in a market that I'm investing in? And do I have great chemistry with the people that I do business with in those markets and in those states? And if I'm really comfortable with those markets and I have great chemistry, then we go all out and we invest with conviction. And we can move a lot of resources, we can move a lot of money, we can move a lot of people, and we can make things happen. And so for me, once I gain that comfort and once I gain that chemistry, we're all in.
Barry, I want to talk a little bit about incentives before our time is up here, and which are key when businesses are making decisions about where they want to be. And we just saw that South Carolina got $200 million incentives to get Volvo to land there. What is your view on the importance of incentives, and is Michigan doing enough?
Well, they're really important. And what incentives do, so Michigan's been raising educational standards, leveling off its corporate income at 6%, eliminating the taxes on personal property, changing its brand. And then, that sets the stage for you to be advantaged. And now when companies make evaluations, there's an investment decision. And what incentives do is they help a company get a return on the investment itself. So if I want to come into Michigan and take advantage of these achievements, if I want to connect to, University of Michigan's engineering capabilities, I now have a project that I have to finance and put into the ground. And my ability to offset those costs on that project are an important part of the return equation.